Music 308, welcome to our last lecture of week one. Yay! It's entitled 1.4 Big Bands and Swing Artists. So let me pull this up, optimize my sound for you, and start from the beginning. Anybody know who this is? I guess this is a rhetorical question because I can't hear you all, but this is Duke Ellington, our piano friend. So our agenda for this lecture is going to be how did Americans hear jazz? We're going to talk about some big band leaders and their big bands, some really fantastic swing artists that you should know, and characteristics of swing. So, how did America hear jazz? The invention of the phonograph and the operation of radio stations allowed for many Americans to be exposed to jazz without having to watch live performances like in the speakeasies or in, halls or in houses or outside or whatnot. Because of the exposure of the genre, jazz became a household staple in terms of listening. During the 1920s, jazz had tremendous growth in the United States. However, when the Wall Street stock market crash occurred in 1929, the country went into a Great Depression, which stunted the growth of jazz until 1935 or 1936. Prior to this time, jazz was available on what were called race records that were sold in African American neighborhoods. The white public was completely unaware of the great black jazz musicians. So we have some big band leaders that I want to reiterate too that there is no set time frame or hierarchy of what musicians are important in this era. I really want to provide you with the basics of who you can recognize and give you a brief history on their lives and how they contributed to the genre and kind of what you hear based off of their influences. Of course, there were several other band leaders of the swing era, but here are some of the most prominent. I want to start on our left over here with Fletcher Henderson, nicknamed Smack, led one of the most important big bands that emerged during the mid 1920s that connected the Dixieland and swing styles. Fletcher went to college to study chemistry, moved to New York to obtain his master's in chemistry, but then became a pianist who demonstrated songs for Pace and Handy Music Company. I guess it was a good thing that Fletcher started learning piano at age 6. His big band style would likely be characterized as pre-swing because over the years he added more players to his ensemble and created sections of instruments which were organized in his arrangements. So all the brass would be together, all the woodwinds would be together, the rhythm section would all be together, and that would be one cohesive unit rather than them each being individual entities. His representation of African roots in hot jazz, as well as his traditional big band style, were great influences on the era. So I wanted to listen to his The Stampede. So listen to this. We kind of have this blues / Dixieland type, situation going on. Think about the emotion that's going on here. Think about how we're leaning into this improvisation section that's going to be blasted out by this trumpet player. us. Did I say? I think I said trumpet. I meant saxophone. It is currently 9:26 p.m. as I'm recording this, so I pardon me. Anyways, now we have Duke Ellington, right? He was born in 1899 in Washington, D.C., and he lived 75 influential years as a pianist and composer. His piano playing was influenced by the best ragtime and stride piano players of the day. He wrote 1,500 jazz compositions, which have unique, beautiful harmonic coloring. So, looking at that kind of, you know, um, up and down nature of the music, the chords that are there, and well written melodic lines. So looking from left to right on the melodies, right? Much of his harmonic language can be heard in the following standards: Black and Tan Fantasy, The Mooch, East St. Louis, Toodaloo, Creole Love Call, and Mood Indigo. As he worked with the then young composer and arranger, the incredible Billy Strayhorn, in the 1930s, his standards developed harmonically and melodically as his orchestra increased in size to 15 people. Some of his hits that were performed later in his life include Satin Doll, Lush Life, and Take the A Train, which I strongly encourage you to listen to, but I did want to play a little bit of Mood Indigo. All right, we're really getting into the heat of the moment, but I do want to go on to our next influential band leader, who is Benny Moten. He was a Kansas City band leader who developed a big band style that is heavily influenced by the blues and featured what we call riffs, which are a repeated musical idea by the brass and woodwind sections. Riffs are common when people improvise, and they may perform a riff that takes the same aspects of the musical language in a new setting. So for you, I have 12th Street Rap. I'm sorry, does this sound like SpongeBob or is that just me? Okay, continue. If we listen to the second part of this solo, you can hear in the back kind of with the clarinets, they're going da 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 da, and you kind of have that boom boom walking bass from the tuba, boom boom bum 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 boom 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 bum bum bum. Clarinets Let's listen. Please hold. I'm having technical difficulties. Next on our list, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Count Basie, in our bottom kind of leftish corner-ish, right? Count Basie was an influential band leader and pianist. He traveled with a vaudeville show that ended up getting stuck in Kansas City, which led him to joining Walter Page's Blue Devils. And then, of course, Kansas City, he joined Benny Moten's band until his death in 1935. After his death, the Count made his own band with many of Moten's sidemen. The group was brought to New York City by John Hammond in 1936 and made their first recording with enlarged personnel in 1937. Count Basie's orchestra is known for its rich blues tradition of the Southwest and their elite rhythm section featuring Joe Jones on drums, Freddie Green on guitar, Walter Page on bass, and the Count himself on piano. By incorporating all of these fine soloists like Thad Jones and Lester Young on his roster, the band was able to accompany them with riffs. So kind of the same aspect as Benny Moten with those clarinets. Bop, 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 bop. So let's see if we can hear that in Corner Pocket. General form for all of these is that we have either an introduction or jump straight into the head, so the main melody, which could be anywhere between 12, 16, 24, 32 bars, right? So we kind of heard that corner pocket main theme being played by the saxophones, then transferred over to the trumpets, and then leading into that trumpet improvisation section. I do want to listen just a little bit more to see if we can hear any riffs behind the trumpet. Listen to those saxes in the back. Those are called riffs. That's what we're talking about. And they kind of steal a little bit from that main melody of Corner Pocket that they were playing, but it's just a little bit kind of something to support, but also give the soloist something to bounce off of to play. Yeah, that's like some classic jazz swing that you would play. Like I feel like in high school and like with the jazz orchestra here at Stony Brook, this is kind of like the most common, swinging type feel that we have, thanks to the Count. Now we have Betty Goodman, the only white person on this big band leaders slide. and for good reason, because he was born 1909 in Chicago. Known as a clarinetist, he was able to perform classical and jazz genres virtuosically. He was dubbed the king of swing, and one of his most notable achievements was breaking the barrier between white and black musicians. He came to the surface through his appearances on Let's Dance radio station, which is where this recording comes from of Swing, Swing, Swing with the Gene Krupa Orchestra. That's Gene Krupa on drums. That's the man, Benny Goodman. Squidward could never. Okay. Next, we have our hit swing artists. The first two that I would like to take a look at are Coleman Hawkins and Lester Young. Both great tenor saxophone players, but I would like to start off with Coleman Hawkins. He toured with Mamie Smith's Jazz Hounds as a teenager before coming to New York. At age 19, he performed with Fletcher Henderson and was a featured soloist of his band for 4 years. He recorded Body and Soul, which became his biggest hit, and he is known for establishing a new history on the instrument until the bebop era when the cool style became more popular. And then short bio on Lester Young. He's born 5 years later than Hawkins, but was also a leading jazz soloist on tenor saxophone. He was nicknamed Prez, short for president, by Billie Holiday, a vocalist that we'll talk about later. And he began playing drums. He was also fluent in clarinet, alto saxophone, and violin because he was born into a family of musicians. He was a featured soloist on the Sounds of Jazz CBS telecast, and his musical ideas were a lot more laid back, as was his tone. So I have recordings of both Hawkins and Lester Young playing Body and Soul. And rather than trying to really explain the difference in words, which I'll do after, I want you to listen and kind of come up with your own foundation. Like, what are those differences or similarities that you hear between the two? They're in the same era, just about the same age. So let's listen to Hawkins first, the original Body and Soul recorder.
Lester Young playing the same song. Yes, they are the same song, even though they might sound a little bit different, as a warning. So kind of a little bit different, but still the same vibe, right? Hawkins kind of has this rich tone, full vibrato. Um, you know, he explores the vertical aspect of the music, ascending and descending chords, unlike Lester Young, who plays with a more long, flowy, horizontal line, right? The whole time that we were listening to Lester Young, you kind of hear that kind of trajectory where we were going. Whereas with Coleman Hawkins, we're kind of all over. There was never like a minute to breathe. It's like when you're talking to someone and they just never stop talking and you're like, but I do nope, you don't have time to do that. You could probably interject a little bit with Lester Young's playing kind of that more melodic forward motion. Now I want to talk about some vocalists really influential to the genre. First, I wanted to start off with Billie Holiday, who is one of the greatest vocalists since Bessie Smith. She was born in 1915. She lived 44 years. She was discovered by John Hammond, a talent scout, in a Harlem basement club. Her voice was small yet mighty. Though laid back in terms of her tone, she was a direct influence of the blues. She and vocalist Ella Fitzgerald, which we'll talk about on the next slide, assisted in bridging the gap between early swing and modern bebop years. She recorded with Benny Goodman in 1933 and joined the Teddy Wilson Orchestra in 1935. Also, Count Basie's orchestra in 1937, and a year later with Artie Shaw's orchestra in 1938. All of her fame led her to struggle with drug addiction and 3 marriages. Her tragic life, though filled with fame, was laced with child abuse, prostitution, and drug abuse. And on a lighter note, I have her rendition of He's Funny That Way.
Once she dressed in tweeds and drapes, owned a Rolls Royce car. Now he seems quite out of place, like a fallen star. While I worry, plan and scheme over what to do, can't help feeling can't save a cent. He doesn't holler, he'd live in a tent I've got that man mad about me. He's funny that way.
Wow. Doesn't she just have such a presence? She really just takes command over the space. Next, another woman in our jazz field who takes command of the space is Ella Fitzgerald, born in 1918, and she was discovered at an amateur show in Harlem in 1934. She began her career with Chick Webb in 1935 as vocalist. She has strong command and control over her technique while being in tune, which is such a beautifully rich tone that you're not going to find anywhere else. She recorded a lot with Duke Ellington, and these recordings are fantastic. I'm going to put them all together for you on a Spotify playlist. So if you're like cleaning the house or something, or you're driving around and you're like, oh, I'm thinking about jazz, then you can play some of this stuff. They complement each other so well. Anyways, she is known for her scatting or ability to sing without lyrics, particularly in How High the Moon. But today I wanted to take a look at You'd Be So Nice to Come Home To, which is a modern style Ella with a jazz combo, so her with a rhythm section. She has really great improvisation and it highlights her strong sense of rhythm. Overall form is A B A B, 32 bars. Um, and you can see all the A and B themes. And I wrote out a little kind of intro, first chorus, second chorus, third chorus, fourth chorus of what to expect.
And ladies and gentlemen, you'd be so nice to come home to. You'd be so nice by the fire while the breeze on high sang a lullaby. You'd be all that I could desire under stars chilled by the winter, under an August moon burning above. You'd be so nice, you'd be paradise to come home to and love. You'd be so nice by the fire while the breeze on high sang a lullaby. You'd be all that I could desire. Under an August moon burning above, you'd be so nice, you'd be paradise to come home to and love. You'd be so nice to come home to. You'd be so nice by the fire while the breeze on high sang a lullaby. You'd be all that I could desire under stars chilled by winter, under an August moon burning above. You'd be so nice, you'd be paradise to come home to and love. You'd be so nice, you'd be so nice to come home to and love.
Every single time I hear her, wow, awestruck, fantastic. Then we have Sarah Vaughan, nicknamed Sassy and the Divine One. She was born in 1925. She took piano lessons and she also studied organ, very niche but cool. She, like Ella Fitzgerald, was founded an amateur
contest at the Apollo Theater in New York City. She became immersed in the style of vocal bop, which was started by Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, who we'll get to in our next unit next week. Her first hit was It's Magic in 1947, and her modern period is represented by All Alone and My Funny Valentine, similarly to Ella's recording of You'd Be Nice. However, a Sarah Vaughan favorite of mine is Misty.
To do a little tune that I written by Earl Garner. I'm sorry.
Beautiful ballad.
I'm as helpless as a kitten up a tree. Feel like I'm clinging to a cloud I can't understand. I get misty just holding your hand. Walk my way, and 1,000 violins begin to play. Might be the sound of your hello, that music I hear.
You can tell how different that Sarah Vaughan's tone is between Billie Holiday, who's more nasally, right? Kind of more upright in the center of where she is. Then Billie Holiday's got this wide, beautiful, lush tone. Sarah Vaughan's almost like this quiet Billie Holiday with less raspiness, right? But she's still got that kind of almost control over the tone, almost Lester Young kind of looking at the melodies of things, kind of really stretching it out there. Yeah, Sarah Vaughan has a beautiful voice. Anyways, some other swing artists that we should look into, or rather you should look into, are Jimmy Lunsford, Cab Calloway, Benny Carter, Jimmy Dorsey, and Tommy Dorsey, the Dorsey brothers, Earl Hines, Bunny Berrigan, Lionel Hampton, Glenn Miller, Sidney Bechet, Django Reinhardt, and Artie Shaw. And, as promised, the characteristics of swing. Our expanded instrumentation of the big band was common among much of swing music, right? Generally, there will be some trombones and trumpets in the band, 4 saxophones or clarinets, and 4 rhythm section components like piano, bass, guitar, and drums. This is a little bit more than what we had before, especially in a combo situation, having a solo or duo with a rhythm section. A lot of swing music stressed reading the music. I mean, how could you not with such intricate articulations and orchestrations of everything, right? The same technical accuracy that the city blues singers strove for was seen in the big bands. When I was growing up and performing this music personally, there were a lot of different nuances that were added in the music all the time. Dynamics, articulation, accents, and of course the overall orchestration and voicing, which did contribute to that jazz sound, being able to open up chords more because you have more people to play more notes, right? Every saxophone, trombone, trumpet, whatever, can only play one note. It's not like a keyboard where you can put down all 10 of your fingers, or 8 fingers and 2 thumbs, to perform your notes, right? Swing music was for dancing, and I think that's really prominent in a lot of what we heard tonight. If you weren't dancing in your seat, then you're not having enough fun. Riffs. Riffs were used by Benny Moten and Count Basie in their earlier arrangements. We had the use of the shout chorus, which was the last section of the swing arrangement that featured riffs being exchanged between brass and woodwinds in a very highly punctuated manner. I'm going to show you an example of this in the next slide. And let's pin that really quick, because I just want to say that swing music is kind of like pop music in the sense of this is our, what we're listening to now, Charlie XCX, Dua Lipa, Chapel Rowan, Sabrina Carpenter, all of these icons that, are making these summer hits and whatnot. This was Billie Holiday, Sarah Vaughan, Artie Shaw. All of these people were, releasing things with their bands or individually as artists and really performing just the same way that we do today. So, to wrap it up, I have our Ladybird over here. So this is through just Ladybird. I want to listen through the improvisation riffs so that you can hear the riffs in action, and then I want to play an example of what a shout chorus might sound like. And if you listen close enough, you can also kind of follow the Ladybird horn. So we don't really have a shout chorus in this because this is Dexter Gordon playing with a combo. So I found this recording of somebody, a group of 3 people, that made a shout chorus example with horns. So trumpet, trombone, and saxophone. So we kind of have this whole, wide thing going on. Everybody's doing the same things, very punctuated, accented. Like this is the end for whatever song it is. So, with that being said, please do give some consideration to the following artists. If you want to take a picture, or pause, or come back to it, you can do so. I'll stop sharing here. Please do make sure to complete your week 1 homework assignments. Those are posted on Brightspace. There's some that pertain to listening, so you'll have to do your own listening and write a few reflections. I'm not looking for you to be musical geniuses here. You're still learning, and I get it. If you have any questions about incorporating the musical vocabulary, please let me know. jt.cummings@stonybrook.edu, and I can help you out there. Make sure that you do your weekly discussion post, due Wednesday night for the initial post, Sunday by 11:59 p.m. Sunday by 5 p.m. for the submission of your responses to other people, as well as your weekly assignments. Please, please, please let me know if I'm going through any of this too fast. If there's not enough of what you want to know, if you have any questions, please. I'm openly doing this curriculum while the class is occurring. Just so that I can kind of adapt things a little bit more. But I do have a basic structure that I, of course, want to follow. But I do want your input. I do want to hear from you. So I'll be checking in with all of you at the beginning of next week. So enjoy your day, evening, middle of the night, whatever you're up to, and be well. Have a good one.